Hello, everyone. Sergio here. All right, I see that people are connecting. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. In today's webinar, we're going to be going over uh, teaching other subjects with Speakable. It might be no secret that Speakable is mainly a platform used for language learning, but the tools that are used to practice language are not in many ways dissimilar to other subjects, and some of the features that we have at Speakable can be used for teaching other subjects as well. We're going to go over details, but of course there are some features that are targeted squarely at teaching languages, but there with a few adjustments, an activity can be created for social studies, for sciences, for maybe, for example, arts like literature. Like if you teach any kind of subject and you need a comprehension component, Speakable can do that for you as well. We have several teachers that are already using Speakable for non-languages. So I'm actually going to see if we can get some of them to have webinars like this, to host some of our webinars and show us how they use things. However, of course, I will show you many ways to do it in this webinar. So yes, I think it's 4:33. Okay, we can get started. So I'm going to begin by focusing on the activity creation, and let's say the features that will allow you to target this an activity towards the subject that you want to teach. So one second, I'm going to start presenting. Yeah, Speakable. Okay. So at this point, I think you can see my library. Yes, I can confirm that. Okay. So let's begin with the different kinds of settings that will allow you to focus your Speakable activity into other subjects. So let's create an activity together. We can create it with AI or start from scratch. For vocab list is good for repeat cards, but since for this purpose, probably repeat cards are not going to be the best choice, we're going to start from scratch and create activities manually. However, everything that I'm going to say today can be done with AI, and I am going to show you how to do that as well. So I just clicked on the AI creator, but I'm going to go back to creating it from scratch. So let's add a cover to this, just I guess for the sake of simplicity. I have this as my history. Okay, let's look for Deutschland. And in Deutschland, I'm going to choose a beautiful, the Brandenburger Tor. Okay, so I'm going to say this webinar 3, teaching social studies, sciences, and other subjects with Speakable. That's going to be my title, subtitle, and cover for this activity. And we're going to begin today with a brief tour of all the card types. So click on the plus sign here on the contents to create the card. So we have the 3 main student actions plus the media page and the 2 AI creators, if you will, like the full-on AI creator and the bulk repeat import vocab list function. So let's begin with elimination. Let's say repeat cards are probably going to be the least important when it comes to teaching other subjects. However, they do have a place. Let's say the focus will be less on pronunciation, but there are some features within the repeat card that we can use to teach other things. For example, what happens if I'm feeling, I don't know, I'm medical. I'm going to use a medical term, and it's going to be, I don't know, the Hippocratic Oath. I'm not sure why. Let's just do this, the Hippocratic Oath. Let's verify it. If you see this, that just means no one has used it before, but you can just verify it yourself, and let's see. So let's hear it.
Hippocratic Oath.
Hippocratic Oath. Ah, I know the problem. Wait. My spelling was a mistake. Hippocratic Oath.
Hippocratic Oath.
Hippocratic Oath. My spelling was incorrect. So now that I have this, like, okay, what's the idea of this? Of course, the purpose in this case is not to teach pronunciation, although, yeah, I guess a good bonus. But I think the focus here is on teaching, advanced vocabulary to begin with. So for that, you could use some of the extra features that we have in the repeat functions here. One is the translation. If you enable it, then simply this will be translated into the student's native language. This is useful in case you are teaching sciences, but your students are not all, necessarily English speakers. You could have a translation there so that they have both. And you can do this here. But probably the most important thing you can do to tweak a repeat card in purpose of teaching sciences, like in this example, is going to be to go here and add explanation. So this is the oath that aligns doctors, no, bad spelling again, aligns doctors worldwide in the pursuit of providing healthcare to anyone that needs it, regardless of political affiliation, religion, or other dividing factors, right? So regardless of whatever whatever you're going to teach, you can add this as the explanation, and then when your students preview it, they can see
Hippocratic Oath.
what it is, and they can click on the translation and the explanation for it. So you could technically use this function, which is let's say to teach new vocabulary and new pronunciations, to teach new content, right? So in this case, the Hippocratic Oath, there is a definition, and I mean, of course, this part is just for like this core speakable here. Hippocratic Oath, right? And that's how they will, move on to the next one, right? Clear and start over. Okay, go to Builder again. So this is the first approach, right? Just if you want to teach like passively, you can add just the information in the media section, which I'm going to do as well. But if you want to involve your students in saying the things, that repeat cards will be fine, and using the add explanation function will expand the purpose of this as well. Now let's move on to the next card, which is going to be multiple choice in this case, which of course is pretty self-explanatory. Whatever you want to add here, you can add. So which bone connects the shoulder and the chest, right? I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor, but we can focus on the metacarpal, the collarbone, the whatever, So whatever option you have, you can select it, and that's going to be, your typical kind of pub quiz kind of thing. The more options you want, you can keep adding options. If there are multiple correct answers, then click on multi-select and select all the ones that are valid. And this is, I guess, not related to necessarily the subject, but if you're using this in a classroom setting, then remember that you can always click on shuffle, and that way, B is not going to be B for everyone. So if you're worried that your students, might simply copy off each other's screens, then shuffle is a good way to remedy that. But anyway, so again, multiple choice available for whatever type of subject you're teaching, and pretty useful for them all. But I think the meat and potatoes of a speakable activity is going to be in the respond card. So the respond card is for the ones that don't know, it's going to be an activity, a student action type that's going to allow the students to answer a question or a prompt, openly, like a free answer. So I'm going to ask a question. It could be like something like, let me change the topics. We have been focusing on I guess anatomy and medical sciences. Let's focus on something else. I can ask something like, how many legs does a spider have? Right. So of course this is very like very probably a question for the young ones, but this is useful for any science teacher, right? So you're teaching biology and you need to do nothing. Like this is already enough. So I can go ahead and answer. Let me answer something incorrect to show you what it would do. So what you're trying to look for is specific factual information about how many legs a spider has, then this is a good way to do it. Like there's nothing else you need to do. Just go ahead. A spider has 7 legs. Yeah. And I'm just going to submit my answer and let's see what happens. And okay, your answer is clear, but it doesn't accurately address the prompt regarding how many legs a spider has. Remember, it's important to provide the correct information. Okay, let's check the correction itself. So it highlights the wrong information and I can hover my mouse over it and I can see the right answer. It's 8. And there's an explanation. Spiders have 8 legs, not 7. Again, the suggested response is also here, and what it does is it provides a corrected version of my answer, and I can hear it.
A spider has 8 legs.
A spider has 8 legs. Okay, cool. So I was wrong, but I can be corrected for this. So regardless of the level you're teaching, if you're teaching, science to primary school, or if it's all the way to college level or higher, you can still use Speakable, and the type of prompt you ask is going to determine how difficult the student's answer is expected to be, and therefore, how strict it's going to be. So far, this is like, if you want to use it for something that is widely known, you can do that. Let's have another example with history, right? I can ask like, when was America discovered, right? And again, let me show you what happens if the answer is wrong. America was discovered in 1462. Okay, so I was off by 30 years here. Let's see if that's picked up. And it was. Right? So the correct answer was selected here. And it gives me extra information. Like America was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1492, not 1462. Again, the suggested response, it's going to be a more sophisticated answer. Why? Because my question was probably more sophisticated to begin with. I was using passive voice. It was, probably something that's higher level, right? So it gives me a much perfected version of my answer. America was officially discovered in 1492 when Christopher Columbus arrived. However, it is important to note that indigenous peoples had been living in America for thousands of years prior to this event. Important distinction, right? So if you want to include all of these things and go deeper into the nuance of this, then you can ask that. For example, you could tweak this prompt so that, if it's a higher difficulty, it's not just about the year, right? When was America discovered, and which peoples lived in the continent before the arrival of the Europeans, right? You can even add more things. Which European discovered America, right? So now it's about the year, who was there, and who was the person who got there, right? So you can ask all of these things in one prompt and it will work. Let's see if we get it. So now, of course, Speakable will look for much more nuance and detail in the answer because the prompt is a lot more complex. So let's test it. America was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1492. However, there were many civilizations living in America before then. There were several tribes living in North America, like the Olmecs, the Aztecs, and in South America, there were good examples like the Incas or the Caribes, which were living in the continent before the arrival of the Europeans. Okay, I probably was a bit redundant with my answer, but let's see if it catches it. It probably will give me feedback on this. Like, so even if this is a history class, like my redundance was probably not the best, but still, you can see that my answer was acceptable and it tells me why. And identify several civilizations that lived there before Europeans arrived. While there are minor grammatical issues, they do not detract from the overall message. Good job providing specifics about the tribes and cultures. And I can see again my answer and what was deemed particularly good and what was deemed something that needed improvement. And in this case, who lived? Because I say which were living. Yeah, you know what? But this has nothing to do with history. So as you can see, this is where like the roots of Speakable still coming to to the surface, which is this is mostly for teaching languages. So I mean, how do I remove those things? Well, you can. So if you don't, for example, what happens if your students are not necessarily native English speakers, like in this example, but you still want to ask about history or whatever, and you don't care if there are mistakes, like made along the way. So there are several things you can do. Number one is you can give less importance to those by removing some of the feedback. So if you only care about factual correctness but don't really care too much about grammar insights, because again you're not a language teacher, then you can turn them off here. The same thing as the suggested response. If you don't want the students to be provided with a perfected version of the answer or a correct version of the answer, then you can turn it off. I'm going to leave it on for the sake of again factual clarity, but I can do that here. Also, if you're teaching your class in a different, I mean, of course, in this example, we're teaching English, but if you teach any kind of discipline, history in whatever language, you can change it here. Of course, only English is provided because that's the language I have set up for here, but I can change it here at any point. And now it's going to be a Danish activity, right? So that's not going to affect the like you can still ask the prompt in English and have the students answer in Danish if you want, right? But of course, keeping it consistent with the language is best. So let's try now what happens, or what happens with the answer when grammar insights are turned off. So let me do something simpler so that is a bit shorter. Let me go back to this one. Before the arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492, there were several civilizations like the Incas, Olmecs, Toltecs, and Aztecs living in the continent. Okay, so a shorter answer. Let's see what happens when the grammar insights are turned off. Now, take a look at this. Like, there's no, I'm going to say, subtraction of points towards like the problems with grammar or whatever. I turned it off, so now it's not going to highlight things in green or orange because I selected that it wouldn't. Now, remember that these features, when you open a new response card, these features are going to be on by default. So if you don't want grammar insights, remember to turn those off. They are on by default because the vast majority of our questions would require it. If you're curious about this WIDA level one, is if you're an English teacher and you are you want this question to provide an estimation of where this student is according to WIDA standards, that's what you will do. Of course, for the sake of this particular webinar about others of their subjects, this would not be a core thing to take into account, right? But anyway, so there you go. That's how you can, let's say, manipulate the feedback a bit so that it's not only language oriented, but oriented to the subject that you're teaching. But there are other ways to zoom in further, right? So I'm going to focus on other things you can tweak for better control of this. So let's begin again with a prompt. Let's change topics. Let's go with social sciences. So or geography. What is the main economic activity of the country of, and I can go crazy here, Peru, right? So what is the main economic activity of the country of Peru? But I want this to be a little bit more specific. Again, I am not a language teacher, but I know some of my students might not speak English very well, but this is a class in English. You have international students. That's something that can happen. So I'm going to change it so that this, again, is not super focused on grammar insights. And also, I'm going to zoom in with the grading, not pass fail. This is the standard one that we have been using so far in this demo, but I'm going to change it to rubric based grading. So rubric based grading will allow you to grade um, grade a question based on a very controlled set of variables, and you can determine those variables. So by default, the standard world language rubric is selected, again, focused on language, but you can simply click on it to view what it does and change it and edit it. For example, by default, there are 3 fields that this rubric will check: grammar, relevance, and completeness. But again, what happens if you want to define each one? So for example, again, if I am a language teacher, I can give another level. So if I take a look at the definitions of each score, so grammatically correct or contains minor errors that do not affect understanding. If I am a language teacher, I probably want to add another one, master, and there's like, there are no mistakes whatsoever, right, in the student's response. Right? I can set this. So now there's a maximum of 7 points, not 6, as we had before, right? But again, circling back or lassoing in this, if I am not a language teacher and I don't really care about grammar correctness, I can completely remove it. Yeah. So now only relevance and completeness are going to be taken into account, right? So I can take this, which is again the standard rubric, but just a little bit, with a little tweak, and I'm going to use this rubric in this card. You can use it in this card, in all cards, or if you are consistently using that rubric, then you can set it as your default for all activities going from there. So set as my default rubric. I'm not going to do that because I still use the normal one more, but I'm going to apply it to this card. So now, even if I make mistakes, they're not going to be taken into account, or they're not going to subtract from my answer. And the answer will be accepted regardless of any mistakes that we have here, because we defined that those were the elements, right? Only relevance and completeness are going to be used for this. So use this rubric, apply to this card. Total 6 points. No, wait, I haven't saved it. Wait, I have one that is saved. I have it labeled as fluency. Here it is. I'm going to use this rubric. Let me see if this is correct. Total points for fluency. Yeah, this is the one. So I'm going to use this rubric, and it's going to help me narrow down those things and focus on the history itself. So let me just answer this. Let me start again. Peru's main economic activities are mining, because they are a source of lots of minerals like copper, silver, or gold, also lithium, and also tourism, with Machu Picchu being one of the wonders of the world. They receive millions of visitors every year. Okay, so I'm going to add this as my answer. Let's see what the rubric will tell me. Again, this is going to be taking a look at completeness and relevance. So let me see how strict, let's say this. Again, the more complex the prompt, the stricter it will be. So let's see. Your response highlights important economic activities in Peru, such as mining and tourism, but it doesn't clearly identify which one is the main economic. Oh, right. I forgot to mention this one. So to improve, try to focus your answer on answering the specific questions more directly and prioritize. Okay, so maybe I was too wordy, and probably I could have been a lot quicker with my answer. So there you go. 1 out of 1, 1 out of 2, and 1 out of 2. However, remember that as teachers, you can still see this feedback and disagree with it, right? So if you want, you can go back to the activity and change this. So, I think that, yeah, I agree. Completeness was very good. So 2 out of 2, but relevance, I'm going to leave it as 1 out of 2. You can do that later. I'm going to show you how to do that from the classroom view. But here it is. This is a more focused activity or a question where the student's mistakes in terms of grammar are not important, and only the factual accuracy is important. But let's go back to rubrics, because you can go crazy with them. Yeah. So at this moment, I am teaching history. I am teaching like geography, right? And I think I have some geography specific ones. For example, take a look at this one: World Capitals Knowledge and Grammar Rubric. So this is one I created. Again, still there's a language component, but that's how I created this rubric. But the most important thing is knowledge of world capitals, right? But what happens if you teach, for example, if you don't teach English as a second language, but you teach literature, right? Or you're focusing on a writing module or creative thinking, then take a look at this one I created. So this is about, of course, it's still an English one, but artistic flair. So creativity is going to be important. So this is one I did for short stories, and the crazier the story, the more points were awarded. So that's something you can do. If you are focusing on history, take a look at that. You can create a rubric about that specific moment in history. So I don't know, fictional, but I was teaching a module on the Second World War. So I created a rubric where key event identification and significant features are important. So as long as the key events and the figures are accurate, that's what I wanted to have, like that rubric about that. Take a look at this one. This is about creating songs. So specific attention was given to, if the songs are, they have metric and the rhymes are good and things like that. I wanted to create one for this is a true story. My uncle, who's a neurosurgeon, and he was temporarily out because he had an injury. So he said, "Hey, I'm going to just give me something to learn English." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to test you in your own field." I created many activities for him, but one of them was specific about neurology. And I created a rubric so that it goes super deep into medical knowledge, so that if he answered whatever, it wouldn't suffice. He needed to answer with factually correct answers for this to be acceptable. And this was a lot of fun to create and to test with him. If you're teaching, law, because you want to have a module about the Constitution. This is one I created specifically about the US Constitution, right? So you can go as deep as you want. As you can see, some of the rubrics I have here on the left, I have created all of these ones that are labeled in blue. Most of them are for languages, but there are some that are not, like the ones I have been showing you. Take a look at the Spanish conquest of the Americas. So this is specific about the Spanish side of the conquest, right? Anyway, so you can go super deep in the rubrics, and let me show you how to create one. So first, you go here and you're going to tell the AI what you want. So I need a rubric that will evaluate my students' knowledge on, say, the different muscle groups in the body, right? So it's going to be specific about this. I don't know why I was thinking of this, but you can have this be the core thing. So if you're teaching science, this is going to be your best friend. You can have rubrics that will focus specifically on the fields that you tell it to. Now, the AI is going to give me like a skeleton of this. In this case, it gave me three main fields. So identification of major muscle groups, understanding of muscle groups, like this is more about the function, and knowledge of muscle group location. So let's say I didn't tell this to the AI, but it correctly identified, names, the functions, and the locations, which is super important for an anatomy. But I can still define it more. So what if I want to add another criteria? Yeah, another field, or I want to fine tune the ones that we already have here. Yeah, I can still do so. And with a mix of AI and manual creation, I can have the rubric that will evaluate my students in exactly the way I want them to be evaluated, right? Regardless of the subject that you're teaching. As you can see, there is no mention here of language, so no grammar, no vocabulary. Well, vocabulary is inherent, of course, but let's say this is clearly not a language activity, right? So that's something you could do. Again, I'm going to use it to this card, and of course that would be not this prompt. Let's change the prompt. It would be like, name all the important muscles in the arm, right? I will not attempt this one because I am not a doctor. I do not know enough about anatomy to know this answer. I might have a couple right, but out of the dozens that there are, it would not be enough. So this is, let's say, one way you can zoom in. Now, something that's important for any kind of teacher, right, is the ability to merge it with media, right? So I'm going to show you one way to do this. 1 second, please. Oops, sorry, I accidentally removed myself from this. Okay, so you can go into the media sections here, right? So you can go, I'm going to go into the left one and I can add an image, right? So arm muscles. And I'm going to choose one. I like this one. So especially because this is going to be more detailed, but I'm going to use this one. Yeah. And I can add, for example, I can add incorrect information here or whatever. And I can change the prompt into describe the importance of the muscles in this illustration, right? But of course, how do I merge the AI with the prompt? Click on AI context. So click on generate, and this will read the image and it will have the context. So take a look at this image description. Deltoid muscle, pectoralis major, minor muscle. You know, there's lots of things to extract from the image, and you can go not only into the information displayed here, but just 1 second, please. I need to change one of my settings. All right, I'm back. So let me change actually the layout. This is a better one. So I can use this information like only not only for the text in it, but the location. It knows the location and it knows other things. Like for example, overall the illustration is richly labeled, providing an educational reference for understanding the anatomy of the upper limb. So you can add whatever you want here and have the prompt, agree or be merged with it. This is very important also for video. So let's create another response card and let's add the media here. And I'm going to add a video from YouTube. In this case, about the Spanish Inquisition. And I haven't seen any of these, but let's assume I'm using this one, right? So I want this this video to be a core part of this prompt. So I'm going to like, what is this video about, right? And I can merge it with the AI context. Now, with video in particular, I recommend that you always test it. How do we test it? By going into the AI context and reading what is there, right? Because the problem with video is that sometimes some video transcripts are blocked. If, for example, in the case of songs, it's like the record label includes some copyrights in here that might block the transcripts from being generated. Some cases it's just it's a video without words. So if there are no words, then there's nothing to read from it. So because Speakable will not watch the video per se, it will take a look at the transcript of the video, right? So, but you can still use it this way. So, but what if you want to check for comprehension later, right? What if you don't want to have the information there as a spoiler for the question? Because that could be, like if you ask something specific, not general like this one, but if you ask something specific about the Inquisition, like, oh, what year was the Spanish Inquisition? And then the video is right there for them to, I guess, spoil the answer. You can still attach the video in a different part of the activity. Let's see if this worked, and it didn't, because there are some copyright issues here. So let's see. Let's try with another one, but I'm going to do this thing that I just mentioned. Okay, I'm going to create a media page. So a media page is basically a slide or a page that contains no questions but can contain information. So I'm going to add the video here. Let's go with Peru geography. I'm not sure why I'm thinking about geography, the geography of Peru. The Peru's geography is crazy. Okay, I'm going to use this video, right? But I can decide not to stop with this video. I can add more media. So I'm going to add a title, right? And I'm going to Peru or the geography of Peru, right? And I can add a list of information, right? With whatever. Yep. And still, you can have that information be given, or let's say the information in that video, you can provide it to another card. So as you can see, this is the last page here, but you can have it be the first one and then ask lots of questions about it. How do we know that's about it? Okay, let me remove this one. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to remove the context, and I'm going to attach other context. So instead of apply context, I'm going to attach other context here, and it's going to read all the media that is in the rest of the activity. It could be the image that we just saw in another one, or it could be the video that I have attached in the media section. So I'm going to attach that context, and it's going to, even though the video is not in the question, it can still look for the information in another part of the activity and use it. Like, what's the application of this? Well, general comprehension, right? This way, your students will not have the spoilers of the answer there. They would have to go another one. And as you can see, this one did work, right? How do I know? Because there's a transcript, a summary of the video. So, this video, Geography Geek showcases Peru's unique physical geography, including coastal cities like Lima, Suichi, blah, 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 right? So if you see information about the video, then that video works, right? And it has no, let's say, copyright algorithms that will prevent the transcript from being generated. It generated the transcript, no problem, right? So this is another way you can teach other topics with, that are not necessarily about language. So just to summarize here, you can remove grammar insights if you don't want this to be a thing. If you want to go deeper, you can go into rubrics and change it to a rubric that's specific to your field. And you can also use the media sections with AI context to zoom in or to go up to talk about specific information that might not be readily available, right? So normally the prompts are fine, and even without this image, I can ask this one, describe the importance of the muscle of the muscle in this illustration, of course, but I will not change it. I will change it to illustration 2 in the arm, right? And again, just like the last one, say the name of all the muscles in the arm. And I don't need the media because that information is readily available on the internet. But if I want to be specific, I can attach the context. So a specific video analysis on a specific book or something like that, a video essay, whatever you want to include, you can, and have it be, the source of the questions. So that is kind of like the main thing here. When creating an activity, those are the things you can do to tweak your activity to teach science, social studies, literature, and whatnot. There are some other things that I wanted to mention here. Like, for example, remember that you're not alone in this, and there are other teachers making stuff for many subjects, right? So in the Discover tab, you can look for, right now, everything is by language, but we will be adding some categories here. Those categories are going to be, specific, but you can still look for it by name, like history, right? And you can see some activities that are about history. I know for a fact that there's a teacher that's using lots of these. And for example, take a look at this. This is an activity I found about cities and empires. So where did the Olmec live? What's a theocracy? So as you can see, this is a real teacher using this for real, history class, and it's working really well. As you can see from the color, this is not an oral response as I was using before, but this is a written response. That's something else you can explore. You can change it from oral to written, and that's going to be good. Now, in the future, we're going to have categories for this. So let me go back to the library, to the activity that we were creating, which is webinar 3. And I'm going to publish it, right? And in the publishing screen, you can decide what language this is. Now, because I am a language teacher, I have this set as default, but I can change it, and I can, this is actually a science class, yeah? And now I can publish and assign it. Yeah, now the activity is going to be, available for this classroom, Orange Village. I'm going to schedule the assignment, and I'm going to create it. And now this activity should be. Wait, I didn't check if the activity was available let me see. I think it is. Yes, I think it is. So now the activity should be available in this one. Let me do the same thing with this one. I'm going to publish it. And yeah, take a look at this. This is the viewable in Discover. If you have this activity, this toggle switch on, that means that your students will be, you will be able to discover that, or other teachers will be able to discover that activity in the Discover tab. Along the same lines, if you already have an established team of teachers, you can be part of a space. In this case, I am part of this space that's for history teachers, right? So this is a group of teachers in the state, right? That we all teach, and we have curriculums, that are common between all of us. So we can add the members, and we can have activities. We can share activities here between each other. So this is an activity I created about the history of Turkey, right? So we can do this as well. And so you're not only working with the activities that you make, but you can also be curious and share your activities with the world and use what other teachers are creating as well. So with that, we have reached the end of this webinar on social studies and science, and how to use Speakable to teach any subject, essentially. So yeah, I wanted to ask you guys online. We have several platforms. There are some people on Twitter, on StreamYard, and YouTube right now. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Also remember that, let me change this to the banner. If you want to try a pilot, you can do that here as well. So if you're interested in using Speakable as a team in your school or in your school district, then let us know, and we'll get in contact to set something up. So there are some of the features that I mentioned today, like rubrics or AI context, are available in our more premium models. So if you want to have the full functionality, a pilot would be a good way to start. Anyway, so yes, still open for questions if you have any. But it looks like, yeah, well, that would be it then. So I hope you have a great rest of the day, and let us know if you have any questions. Remember that we're going to have more webinars in the future. So tomorrow we have one for general tips and tricks at Speakable for languages or non-languages, anything you want. And also next week, we're going to be having webinars on how to use webinars for younger audiences, for like if you're teaching very, very, very young kids. And also, we're going to dive deeper into ACTFL and WIDA standards for language assessments. So yeah, that's going to be the next week as well. Keep out your eyes peeled for those. We're going to be announcing them today. And yeah, have a lovely rest of the day. Goodbye.